The trace of demonic consciousness, cautious as it was, carefully flew towards the distance. However, at this moment, it was so weak that it could be wiped out at any moment, erasing all existence. Flying through the sky, it consumed the fragile demonic consciousness with every passing moment. In the end, it was almost on the verge of collapse. Even its memories became blurred, and in a daze, it gradually began to dissipate. Just as it was about to vanish permanently from the world, it vaguely sensed a demonic energy spreading across the ground. Beneath it was the Soul Refining Tribe. At that time, the Soul Refining Tribe had only a few 100,000 members, most of whom had scattered, each searching for places where souls resided. Only a few thousand remained in the tribe. These people appeared fervent, worshipping a rough black stone statue placed at the center. A faint demonic aura emanated from their crown, filling the surrounding space. The demonic consciousness of the cloud demon, which had already lost much of its clarity and identity, almost instinctively surged towards the black stone statue. The moment it merged with it, the statue seemed to come to life, exuding a faint demonic aura that began to gather around. As time passed, the cloud demon gradually became silent within the black stone statue. Its memories from the past escape were so lost that they became hazy. It was never its true body, just a weak trace of demonic consciousness. In this blurred state, it was worshipped daily by the members of the Soul Refining Tribe. Most of the demonic power absorbed by it was filled with the image of a person named Wang. At first, it resisted, but as the number of people in the Soul Refining Tribe grew, surpassing 1 million, with daily worship, it gradually started to feel that its name was Wang, and that it was the ancestor of these people. With this thought, several hundred years passed. The tribe's population grew to millions, and day after day, year after year, it completely abandoned its past, truly believing itself to be Wang. As it was subtly transformed, the appearance of the stone statue gradually changed to resemble Wang's own. Similarly, within this statue, it became Wang. Wang raised his right hand and looked at the ancient demon before him, who looked exactly like him. There was a strange gleam in his eyes. The scene he had just witnessed was so unbelievable that even he found it hard to accept. Combining his earlier speculations, Wang now had a clear understanding of the situation. After a moment of silence, Wang's gaze flickered, and he muttered to himself, "An ancient demon walking right into my hands. It would be too wasteful to let it go. Now even it believes it's me. So, let it become my second avatar. As the ancient god, my first avatar is a cultivator, and my second avatar is this ancient demon. If I have the chance, I wonder if I can create a third avatar, an ancient devil. If they all merge into one, I wonder if I can return to my primal form as an ancient being." Wang's heart raced, and a smile appeared on his face as he gazed at the ancient demon that had practically walked into his hands. He moved swiftly and left the area, focusing his divine sense and cultivation, opening his eyes to face the black stone statue. A broader smile spread across his face. Taking a deep breath, he sat cross-legged on the ground, placed his hands on his knees in a seal, and exhaled primordial energy. The energy immediately spread through the black stone statue, as Wang cast seal after seal, which fell upon the statue. To make this object his second avatar, he needed to refine it until it was united with his own spirit. It must be controlled effortlessly by his will, and it should not reject his primordial energy, but instead merge with it and replace it. This might sound simple, but in reality, it was extremely difficult. If performed forcibly, it could still succeed, but only with a puppet far beneath his level. Even then, becoming an avatar wouldn't be of much use. But if it wasn't beneath him, it couldn't be done forcibly. Thus, refining the avatar became the first challenge. Without forceful methods, it required daily, repeated refinement, consuming a vast amount of time before any hope of success. However, this success still had flaws, and the possibility of the avatar rebelling remained. But for Wang, this was not a challenge. The ancient demon had already completely accepted him as Wang. There was no need for excessive refinement. The only thing required was to merge the divine sense and ensure that the ancient demon understood who was in charge. For Wang, this was not difficult. His cultivation was already far above that of the ancient demon, and as an ancient god, there was no possibility of confusion over the master-servant relationship. But Wang Lin, being naturally cautious, in the following days of ritual and refinement, not only merged his divine sense with the ancient demon, thoroughly fusing with it, but also branded it with the mark of his clone. Furthermore, he prepared numerous other marks, so that, should the clone ever betray him, he could make it submit instantly with a mere thought. Yet this was not enough for Wang Lin, as it was not his usual way of acting. In addition, he used some of Immortal Emperor Qing Lin's puppet control techniques on this second clone. After ensuring complete control, leaving no gaps, he finally felt at ease. Looking at the statue before him, an overwhelming sensation of fusion arose within him. Unfortunately, this second clone has no physical body and exists solely on this statue. It cannot separate for now, and even when attacking, it relies primarily on demonic consciousness. Its power is weak, comparable to the later stages of the Ascension realm. However, as this is a demonic consciousness, if there is enough demonic energy, it will rapidly grow, and one day, it will reach the level of an ancient demon. Wang Lin's gaze flashed. He knew that this matter could not be rushed. It had to be developed gradually. After giving instructions to the soul refining sect, Wang Lin did not take the second clone with him. Instead, he set up powerful restrictions at its location and instructed the sect to maintain their daily worship. Then, he left the soul refining sect. This second clone is a seed. It doesn't help me much now, but once it grows. A glimmer of expectation flashed in Wang Lin's eyes. His body swayed, disappearing into the world. Tianyao County, after the battle with Huiyao County hundreds of years ago, although victorious, suffered heavy casualties. Even now, centuries later, the population of Tianyao County still lags far behind what it was at that time. Even the bustling capital of Tianyao County, while not desolate, is nowhere near as lively as it was when Wang Lin first arrived hundreds of years ago. The streets still have shops, but there are few pedestrians. Those who do stop merely glance around before hurrying away. In the past, within Hong City, there was a long river. This river flowed downstream and connected to the outer river of the capital, creating a cycle. Now, by the riverbank, Wang Lin sat quietly, watching the water. If there were a force that could reverse the flow of time by hundreds of years, one would find that the place where he sat was exactly the same as it was back then. The people were the same as before, the location was the same, and the river was still the same. The riverbank remained unchanged, but the boat of flowers no longer sailed, and the zither music that once filled the air had vanished. A touch of melancholy rose in Wang Lin's heart as he gazed at the empty river. It felt as though the faint zither melody from hundreds of years ago echoed in his ears, lingering around him. But this melody was weak, as if a single breeze could disperse it, and it would never be heard again. He remembered the blind woman who played the zither. If it hadn't been for that night of drinking with the demon sovereign on the boat, he might have never even seen her face. Now, all Wang Lin could recall of her was that solitary figure and the sorrowful sound of her zither. Sitting there, watching the sunset, Wang Lin was immersed in memories. At that moment, he truly felt the passage of time. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of years had passed, capable of washing away everything. But the eternal memories could never be erased. Perhaps this is the sorrow of life. Wang Lin sighed softly. It is because we have memories that time exists. If a person has no memory, time ceases to exist. I wonder if Mo Lehigh from back then is still around. Beside Wang Lin was a wine flask, containing the same wine he had bought from the same shop back then. That shop had been passed down through generations, and even now, the sign was still the same. But the wine. Wang Lin took a sip. The taste has changed. Wang Lin smiled bitterly and put the flask down. Of course it's changed. The old man's descendants no longer have their ancestors' skill and can't make that wine that carries the flavor of time. A calm voice came from behind Wang Lin, with a hint of fatigue. Wang Lin did not turn around but sighed. It's been hundreds of years, and the demon sovereign has lost his former carefree spirit. Behind Wang Lin came a long sigh, and a middle-aged man dressed in purple robes sat beside him. This man was exceedingly handsome, with traces of his former youthful appearance, though now his hair had some white strands, and his face showed signs of the passage of time. Try this. The middle-aged man took out a wine flask and handed it to Wang Lin. Wang Lin took a sip and smiled. This is the wine from back then. I knew you would come back, so I kept a lot, waiting to drink with you once again. The middle-aged man produced another flask, drank most of it in one go, and his eyes sparkled. He laughed heartily. Brother Wang, are you missing the zither music from back then? A faint zither melody floated from the distance, like mist, slowly drifting toward them. It carried with it a touch of loneliness and sorrow, surrounding the area. In a moment, a large boat appeared on the river, its hull rising and falling with the sound of splashing water as it followed the river's course. At the bow of the boat sat a woman, her back to Wang Lin, playing the zither. However, this melody, though resembling the old tune, lacked the charm of the past. Even the one playing the zither was no longer the blind maiden from years ago. Wang Lin took a sip of wine and sighed softly. The demon's sovereign is considerate. The middle-aged man remained silent. The two sat by the riverbank, drinking quietly, one flask after another. The sun sank in the west, and darkness shrouded the land. Tonight, there was no moon. What remained was the unbroken sound of the zither on the river and a few flickering lanterns hanging on the boat, their light dimming and brightening in the wind. Time passed slowly, and as the first light of dawn illuminated the eastern sky, the darkness retreated. By the river, beside Wang Lin, there were only empty wine flasks scattered about. Lord Beiluo already knows of your arrival, Brother Wang. He sent me to pass on a message, the middle-aged man said, gazing at the wine flasks as he spoke. Wang Lin's expression remained calm. Since the demon sovereign's visit the previous night, he had already anticipated this. After all, the land of demonic spirits had long been Beiluo's domain. Over the past several hundred years, Beiluo had grown stronger with every demonic spirit he consumed. Each one made him more powerful. Wang Lin finished the last sip of the remaining wine in his flask. All you need to do is agree, and a spot for entering the 5th immortal abode will be reserved. 4 out of the 9 counties in the land of demonic spirits will be given to the soul-refining tribe as a gift. We won't interfere with the tribe's matters, including the remaining cloud demon consciousness. The existence of the Blackstone statue might have fooled many, but it could never escape the notice of the ancient demon Beiluo. Wang Lin knew this very well. For hundreds of years, Beiluo had made no move, allowing the soul-refining tribe to grow, and even leaving the cloud demon consciousness untouched, all for this day. Agreed, Wang Lin said calmly, staring at the distant horizon. The middle-aged man stood up, cupping his fists and bowing to Wang Lin. He spoke solemnly. Brother Wang, I've fulfilled Lord Beiluo's task, but now, I have one more request. The spirit of the imperial sword was once the daughter of a friend of mine. Unfortunately, as fate would have it, she couldn't escape death. In the end, she became my sword spirit, trapped here for countless years, unable to leave the land of demonic spirits. The middle-aged man's expression darkened. He gestured with his right hand, and immediately, a sword chi howled from the direction of the imperial capital, carrying with it the imperial sword. Wang Lin remained silent for a moment, then spoke slowly. Why not ask someone else? The middle-aged man shook his head, his voice calm. Many cultivators have entered the land of demonic spirits over the years, but I don't trust most of them. The few I could trust, I've been able to protect this sword. But those few missed their chance because of me. Wang Lin sighed. The moment the demon sovereign had arrived the previous night, he had already sensed it. The demon sovereign exuded a faint aura of death. His lifespan was nearing its end. Though the people of the land of demonic spirits lived longer than ordinary cultivators, they too had an expiry date. Unless something unexpected happened, within less than half a year, the demon sovereign would vanish into oblivion. Having known him, Wang Lin saw no reason to refuse. He nodded. A smile appeared on the middle-aged man's face, his expression light and free. With a flick of his hand, the imperial sword transformed into a young woman. The woman's eyes were filled with reluctance, and if not for the sword's spirit's lack of tears, she would surely have been weeping. Listen well, don't be so willful in the future. The man looked lovingly at the woman, as though she were his own daughter. He sighed deeply, then cupped his fists to Wang Lin, bowing deeply. Thank you, Brother Wang. With that, He turned and walked away, vanishing from sight in just a few steps, leaving Wang Lin with the reluctant, sorrowful woman. "Let's go." Wang Lin finished the last of his wine, placed the flask aside, and stood up, walking toward the void. The woman looked toward the imperial capital, her eyes filled with farewell. She understood that she would never meet the demon sovereign, who had treated her like a daughter, again in this lifetime. The end of his lifespan was inevitable. In sorrow, her form transformed into blue smoke and returned to the imperial sword, letting out a mournful cry as she followed Wang Lin. The imperial sword, like a silver beam of light, followed behind Wang Lin. As Wang Lin moved forward, he casually swept the sword into his storage pouch with a flick of his sleeve. He then surrounded himself with divine sense and activated the immortal mansion jade slip. His body disappeared in a flash of golden light. In the fourth cave dwelling of the land of demonic spirits, where Xun'er led, the group was diligently working to break the formations. The cave was full of traps, and with each formation they cracked, more immortal artifacts began to appear before them. With the cultivation levels of Xun'er and the others, breaking these restrictions wasn't difficult. They advanced like a hot knife through butter, gradually heading straight for the center of the cave mansion. However, once they reached this point, the power of the restrictions nearly reached its peak. It could no longer be broken simply through cultivation. Only by understanding the structure of the restrictions could one hope to break them. At this moment, on the platform outside the cave mansion, a flash of golden light appeared, and Wang Lin's figure emerged. He did not pause, stepping directly into the cave mansion. Along the way, remnants of broken restrictions could be seen everywhere. Most of them had been recently broken by Xun'er and his group, except for a few at the beginning, which had been broken by someone else years ago. Not long after, Wang Lin spotted Xun'er and the others from afar. The three masters of Dust Path were sitting cross-legged, white mists swirling around their bodies. Clearly, the recent breaking of the restrictions had drained their energy, and they were now recovering. Next to the three masters of Dust Path was Datu. Wang Lin had not expected Datu to have some skill in breaking restrictions. With Reggie by his side, they were calculating the method to break a certain restriction. Floating Wind Master had also studied the art of restrictions and had become a key player in breaking them. As for Xun'er and the Silver-Robed Maiden, they were responsible for dealing with any attacks or changes that might occur after the restrictions were broken, just in case. Wang Lin walked over, immediately drawing the attention of the others. Xun'er, who had been here for several days and was already growing impatient, glanced around at the overwhelming restrictions. With limited understanding of restriction arts, he found the situation frustrating. In his view, even if the restrictions were strong, they could be broken as long as one had sufficient cultivation. But the task of dealing with the consequences of breaking the restrictions meant he could not leave. If not for that, his temperament would have led him to simply storm ahead and break them on his own. Seeing Wang Lin return, Xun'er's eyes lit up, and he laughed heartily. "You've finally returned. I've been nearly suffocating here. This immortal mansion isn't exactly small, but it's not huge either. We've come straight here, but who knows what treasures might be elsewhere. I'm going to check out some other areas first." Without waiting for Wang Lin's reply, Xun'er took large strides toward a bamboo forest nearby, disappearing into it in the blink of an eye. With Xun'er's cultivation level, Wang Lin wasn't worried about any danger. Moreover, the toxins in Xun'er's body had been temporarily suppressed during their time on the Water Spirit Star. The two of them had figured out a method that didn't require a female cultivator to accompany them. As it stood, the worst that could happen here was that Xun'er might get trapped, and Wang Lin could go to rescue him. He made no effort to stop Xun'er, instead walking over to Floating Wind Master and gazing ahead. 100 steps ahead was a flowing river, mist swirling above it, giving off an ethereal, otherworldly atmosphere. In the middle of the river stood a stone bridge that connected the two banks. This stone bridge was the only entrance. "This place is quite strange." Floating Wind Master nodded at Wang Lin and explained. "We've been blocked here for 5 hours now. No matter how I try to figure it out, I can't get a clear sense of the restrictions here. But I have a feeling that if we try to force our way through, it will trigger a series of unpredictable events. We can't open it unless it's absolutely necessary." Wang Lin looked at the stone bridge silently, his expression calm. This immortal mansion is in the shape of a loop. We're currently at the junction of the inner and outer rings. Once we cross this river, we'll enter the inner ring. But the restrictions here are so complicated that we might not be able to get through quickly. De2 suggested a plan. Instead of crossing the stone bridge, we break the restrictions at the edge of the river and cross that way. Floating Wind Master glanced at De2, who was calculating the method with Reggie, and slowly continued. The three Masters of Dust Path have exhausted too much energy and are recovering. According to Situ Nan's plan, we wait until they are fully restored, and then we all act together to forcefully break the restrictions here. But I don't fully agree with this method. Floating Wind Master's brow furrowed as his gaze fell on the river. In his view, Wang Lin, with his relatively short cultivation time, probably didn't know much about restriction arts. Despite having cultivated for over 1,000 years, it was still a marvel that Wang Lin had achieved his current level. Floating Wind Master thought to himself, this Wang Lin probably doesn't understand restrictions well. After all, he didn't have the time to master them. It seems the breaking of this cave mansion's restrictions still depends on me and De2. Wang Lin stared at the stone bridge, his brow furrowing. No wonder Floating Wind Master had been troubled. As he said, forcing the restrictions open would cause unimaginable chain reactions. This is probably the first major obstacle to entering the Immortal Mansion. Though the distance of 100 steps seemed ordinary, Wang Lin could sense some potential killing intent in the area that was different from the other restrictions in the outer ring. Let's see if my assumptions are correct. Wang Lin's eyes flashed as he slowly spoke. Silver corpse. Not far behind him, the woman in silver narrowed her eyes, and with a swift motion, she appeared beside Wang Lin. Her agile gaze turned to him, waiting for his orders. Step into the 10th step. Wang Lin did not look at her, his eyes fixed on the stone bridge, speaking calmly. Floating Wind Master couldn't help but furrow his brow. In his view, this was the least wise move, as it could very well trigger the formation. But after a glance at Wang Lin, he said nothing, stepping back a few paces to observe. It's fine. Wang Lin waved his hand, interrupting Yakenzi's words. His command was a mission for the woman in silver, and without hesitation, she swiftly stepped within 100 paces. The moment her right foot landed, Wang Lin's eyes suddenly flashed with brilliance, almost unblinking. The woman in silver didn't stop. With a single step, she continued to walk forward, taking 9 steps in total. On her 10th step, a ripple suddenly appeared within the 100-step radius, spreading outward. A faint mist began to form, rapidly heading towards the woman in silver. At the same time, all the onlookers saw the 100-step area distort, as if some force was tearing it apart. Wang Lin's gaze flickered rapidly, and his mental calculations continued nonstop. He spoke calmly. Use divine power to attack the left chin position, then retreat. The woman in silver didn't hesitate. Her right hand gleamed, forming a seal that suddenly landed on the left side. There was a thunderous crash, as if a wild wind had passed through, and immediately, the mist dissipated, with even the ripples slowly vanishing. Retreating, the woman in silver calmly returned to beyond the 100-step radius. This scene made Floating Wind Master pause for a moment, his eyes flashing with surprise. Not just him, even the 3 Masters of Dust Path were stunned, their gazes toward Wang Lin filled with an odd expression. Before they could think too much, Wang Lin took a step forward. His right foot lightly tapped the ground, and he leaped, landing on the 10th step where the woman in silver had been. As expected, the formation within this 100-step radius is vastly different from the one outside. This area is close to the river, and while there are countless changes within the formation, they ultimately form only 2 types: mud and water vapor. His eyes sparkled with insight as he continued to calculate. Waves of formations flickered in his mind, and in an instant, he could visualize them. Wang Lin's knowledge of formations was learned from the ancient god ruins and had been perfected over more than 1,000 years of cultivation. In the Luotian star domain, he inherited the Annihilation Seal and reached great mastery. Although this formation was strong, Wang Lin was no longer the person he used to be. His growth in formations, though not as fast as his cultivation, was still remarkable, especially since he knew that, despite his lack of innate talent from a young age, he possessed an extraordinary comprehension of formations. This, he had realized long ago in the ancient god ruins. Through his cultivation, Wang Lin understood that the key to cultivation was one's sensitivity to spiritual energy. The more sensitive one was, the higher their talent. But formations were unrelated to spiritual sensitivity. Instead, they relied on one's ability to calculate and deduce. This skill was determined by intellect. Wang Lin was not lacking in intellect. On the contrary, he was far beyond ordinary people. Otherwise, he would not have come so far in over 1,000 years of cultivation. Standing on the 10th step, he gazed ahead. In his mind, the formation's power swirled into a storm, flashing with countless insights. The once calm 100-step radius shifted before his eyes. In his vision, there were 39,714 formations within the 100-step range. These formations were interconnected, forming a whole, as if pulling every part with a single thread. Had it been the Wang Lin of the past, before mastering the Annihilation Seal, he would have been overwhelmed by these formations. He would have had to sit cross-legged outside, meditating and calculating for a long time to deduce all the formations before attempting to break them. But now, with his mastery of formations and the addition of the Heart Seal technique, which was the pinnacle of the Annihilation Seal, he could contain everything in his heart. As his heart moved, the formations unfolded endlessly. Wang Lin stepped forward, and as he took another 10 steps, the 100-step formation was triggered. It was as though a stone had been thrown into a calm lake, creating ripples and releasing a force that even floating Wind Master found stirring. The immortal restriction art is indeed ingenious. I wonder how Tian Yunzi and Ling Tianho would break this formation in their immortal mansions. Wang Lin's gaze flickered, but his steps remained steady as he advanced, moving forward with calm confidence. Within 100 steps, the wind and sand suddenly rose, as if transforming into a vast desert. The relentless winds and sands stirred up rocks, forming a swirling dust storm that spread everywhere. The howling sound was like a roar, and the black storm formed a tornado, charging straight toward Wang Lin. This scene was invisible to outsiders, but masters like Floating Wind Master and others, being mighty cultivators, did not need to rely on their eyes. By closing their eyes and using their divine sense, they immediately sensed the terrifying changes and powerful impact within the 100-step radius. Wang Lin's expression remained unchanged. The moment the black dust storm spiraled toward him, he raised his right hand and performed a hand seal. Instantly, a restriction appeared. With a flash of the restriction mark, the black whirlwind instantly shattered. However, to Wang Lin, the storm seemed far too large, spreading across the heavens and earth. Although it collapsed, the collapse was insufficient to stop the storm's swallowing force. Yet, the collapse occurred below the storm, right in front of Wang Lin. As the storm continued to collapse, Wang Lin walked directly through the storm's engulfing force, effortlessly passing through. This simple restriction mark was something Wang Lin had derived after countless calculations. The timing, direction, location, and the strength of the restriction had to be perfectly aligned. Even the slightest deviation would have made it impossible to break through the storm unharmed. It appeared simple, but in reality, only a few could achieve such a feat. Floating Wind Master's eyes gleamed with shock as he stared at Wang Lin, gasping in disbelief. He couldn't believe that Wang Lin, whom he thought had little expertise in restrictions, possessed such a powerful restriction technique. His calmness is not an act, it is genuine. He must have derived all these changes in the restriction. He is not attempting to forcibly break it. Rather, he is using restrictions to break restrictions. The three masters of Dust Path also gasped, exchanging looks with one another, their respect for Wang Lin growing even deeper. Having pierced through the dust storm, Wang Lin's speed suddenly increased. In the blink of an eye, he covered 90 steps, leaving only 10 steps between him and the stone bridge. At that very moment, the dust storm dissipated, only to be replaced by a vast expanse of water vapor, and the sound of waves rose. In Wang Lin's eyes, the 100-step radius instantly transformed into a vast ocean, with roaring waves forming and crashing toward him. Wang Lin's eyes flickered. This was the moment he had been waiting for. As the waves surged forth, Wang Lin tapped his storage pouch, and an item appeared in his hand. It was none other than the Heart Seal compass, an essential item for the inheritor of the Annihilation Seal. Holding the compass, Wang Lin stood tall. His clothes billowed in the wind, and his long hair fluttered behind him, giving him the appearance of an immortal. With his left hand, he made a swift motion across the compass, producing a series of cracking sounds. The compass immediately began to spin. Wang Lin's left hand became almost a blur, continuously moving. His gaze flickered as he stepped forward into the surging waves, crossing several yards in an instant, as though diving into the roaring waves. However, just before reaching the waves, Wang Lin's eyes gleamed coldly. With a flick of his hand, the compass flew forward, and he formed a hand seal. Instantly, a multitude of restrictions appeared. Break! With Wang Lin's loud command, the flying compass suddenly gleamed with black light, and under the power of the restrictions, a tremendous shockwave burst out, quickly pushing away the surrounding forces. In an instant, the waves collapsed, as if a painting of crashing waves had been torn apart inch by inch before Wang Lin's eyes, disappearing entirely. As the waves vanished, a sharp shriek suddenly echoed from within the immortal abode, forming a sonic wave that reverberated throughout the entire immortal mansion. Indeed, there is someone controlling this restriction. Wang Lin's eyes flashed with coldness. When he first observed the restriction, he sensed something was off. To him, the outer restrictions seemed like dead restrictions, with no one controlling them. Everything moved according to the inherent patterns of the restriction. But the restrictions within this 100-step radius were different. The subtle changes within them seemed to suggest someone was manipulating them. To confirm his suspicions, Wang Lin had allowed the silver-robed female corpse to step within 10 steps. By analyzing the changes from those 10 steps and the restrictions, Wang Lin was almost certain that his guess was correct. Without hesitation, he held the compass and stepped forward, directly onto the stone bridge. Looking ahead at the immortal abode, Wang Lin's expression remained calm as he walked forward. The immortal's cave was not as simple as it seemed. Wang Lin understood this well. What I don't know is what exists inside the immortal cave that is controlling the changes in the restrictions, preventing outsiders from entering. Behind Wang Lin, Floating Wind Master's eyes were filled with admiration, and the 3 Masters of Dust Path and two quickly followed. Wang Lin stood on the stone bridge, gazing ahead. The interior of the immortal abode appeared to be a garden, filled with vibrant flowers. Despite being inside an immortal mansion, the multitude of colors gave a dazzling, almost disorienting feeling. For pavilions, with intricately carved jade railings, stood in staggered formation, while a grand palace loomed between them. Dragons and phoenixes were etched into its walls, along with depictions of immortal beasts that Wang Lin had never seen before, giving the palace an aura of immense power. In addition, 10 golden statues stood outside the palace. Each statue was clad in armor, resembling immortal soldiers in appearance. Xinjin. Wang Lin's gaze sharpened as he observed that the 10 statues were made entirely of Xinjin, one of the key materials recorded in the immortal Emperor Qinglin's jade slip, used to enhance the physical strength of the immortal guard. A terrifying sense of majesty slowly emanated from the deep, dark interior of the palace, spreading throughout the surroundings. Wang Lin's eyes flashed. Without hesitation, he took a step forward, crossing the stone bridge and advancing into the inner ring of the immortal mansion. As he drew closer, the vast sea of flowers ahead suddenly shifted. A strange fragrance filled the air, overpowering him. It was a potent scent, yet it carried a hidden venom. Post-rain poison fragrance. Floating Wind Master's eyes gleamed with intrigue as he quickly spoke. I once studied some ancient immortal realm texts, and one of them detailed the toxic arts of the Rain immortal world. It listed the top 100 poisons and provided brief descriptions. Among them, after planting various flower combinations, 2 kinds of toxins naturally emerge. One is the post-rain poison fragrance, a scent so powerful that it disrupts a cultivator's cultivation. If one inhales it multiple times, it can even render a cultivator's power useless. The 3 Masters of Dust Path's expressions shifted slightly, but they didn't retreat. Although the poison was potent, as glimpse of Nirvana cultivators, they had some protective measures. And the second? Wang Lin asked calmly, his eyes fixed on the swaying flowers ahead. The second? Floating Wind Master's eyes darkened, and he said, The post-rain poison fragrance ranks 93, but the other poison, which also naturally comes from flower combinations, is called flower spirit. It ranks 49. Wang Lin withdrew his gaze from the vibrant flowers and casually waved his right hand. Immediately, a strange wind howled, sweeping through the area. However, he soon raised an eyebrow in surprise. The poisonous fragrance didn't disperse as he expected. It appeared to have no form and remained impervious to the wind, flowing seamlessly through the air. Interesting. Wang Lin squinted, unfazed. As the fragrance approached, he calmly spoke. Silver corpse. At his words, the silver-clad woman who had been following him closely immediately sprang forward, bypassing the three masters of dust path, and rushed toward the oncoming poisonous flowers. Wang Lin had studied the silver corpse thoroughly during its refinement. The corpse wasn't known for its divine powers or magical treasures, only the strange scissors contained within its soul. What truly made this corpse formidable was its poison. When Wang Lin had initially captured the silver corpse, many cultivators had similar intentions, but each one was drained of their cultivation and vitality, becoming nothing more than skin and bones. Wang Lin had once believed this was the work of a divine technique, but after refining the corpse, he realized it was a form of poison. Upon further study, he discovered that the poison within this corpse was astonishingly potent, with many different types of toxins that could merge and form even deadlier ones. Thus, to Wang Lin, the silver corpse had become a poison corpse. The true power lay in its toxic abilities. With its early-stage pure nirvana cultivation, the poison would be greatly enhanced. If Wang Lin didn't have the ancient god physique, he would definitely find it troublesome and would avoid provoking such a toxic entity. At this moment, the silver corpse entered the poisonous flower cloud. For most cultivators, this would be a deadly toxin capable of crippling their cultivation, even killing weaker individuals. But on the silver corpse, it had no effect. The silver corpse even opened its mouth wide and sucked in sharply. Its mouth turned into a vortex, immediately pulling the chaotic toxic fragrance into its body. During this process, the previously formless flower fragrance took shape, turning into threads of smoke that quickly rose into the air before swirling into the silver corpse's mouth. The once pale silver corpse slowly turned red, its face now looking almost indistinguishable from a living person. Wang Lin watched calmly. His attention wasn't on the silver corpse, but on the strange flowers. There was something off about them, though he couldn't pinpoint the exact reason. It was simply a feeling that surfaced the moment he looked at them. Just then, one of the flowers in the vast sea suddenly burst forth with thick, swirling silk, and from within that swirl, a young girl suddenly appeared. The young girl was completely naked, not a single piece of clothing on her. Her eyes emitted a faint glow, and she sat with her knees drawn up, though her head was held high. If this were just a single illusion, it would have been one thing, but at the moment the girl appeared, all the flowers in the sea of blossoms on the ground emitted a dense, fluffy aura, and one after another, girls began to materialize. In the instant of their appearance, Wang Lin clearly saw that beneath every flower that transformed into a girl, in the soil below, there were unmistakable fragile skeletons buried. Looking out at this scene, it was clear that this was no flower sea, but a burial ground. Flower spirits. Floating Wind Master wore a bitter expression as he gazed at the girls, each hugging their knees and looking up at the sky. He forced a smile. I never expected that the immortal abode would have such an elaborate design within, burying immortals to create spirits, nourishing flowers with spirits, and forming flower immortals. According to the ancient texts, wherever the flower spirits reside, there might be flower immortals. And flower immortals, though not true immortals, are still a type of poison. But this poison possesses sentience and can take on human form. Therefore, they are called flower immortals, ranked 10th. Floating Wind Master said slowly. In that moment, as the girls sat hugging their knees, their eyes suddenly flashed with an eerie glow. They rose swiftly, as if carried by clouds and mist, heading straight for the silver corpse in the sky. According to the ancient texts, these flower spirits were all girls chosen from the mortal realm. After years of consuming special medicines, they have transformed into medicine humans. They were collectively buried in one place, and through a unique method of catalysis, after several years, they turn into a sea of flowers. Under this process of fusion, there is a chance for a flower immortal to form. In the past, flower immortals were extremely precious poisons in the immortal realm. Because of their ability to change their appearance, they were highly favored by immortals, often bought to guard cave mansions or as sources of amusement. Floating Wind Master, a seasoned cultivator with years of experience, spoke calmly, but his words shocked the listeners. Despite his calm tone, what he said was chilling. The three masters of Dust Path, who had evidently never heard of such things, stared at the girls rushing towards the silver corpse in silence. They were not moved by sympathy, but by the cruel reality of the immortal realm's past. Even the two sucked in a breath, falling silent. In contrast, Wang Lin's expression was grim, but there was no shock on his face. In truth, after learning how to summon wind and rain, and how to scatter beams to form soldiers, he had come to understand that the immortal realm was far from the peaceful place people imagined. He would not be like some cultivators, endlessly longing for the immortal realm. The immortal Emperor Baifan's abilities clearly showed that Baifan was no benevolent being. Becoming an immortal emperor and creating such near-demonic techniques already spoke volumes. As the blood god had once said, this is not some immortal technique, it is clearly a demonic art. Baifan was like this, and so was Qing Lin. The puppet techniques he acquired from Qing Lin's Jade Slip were all tyrannical, including the method of refining living humans. Wang Lin had long since understood this. In cultivation, no place was a paradise. Not even the immortal realm. As he listened to Floating Wind Master's words, Wang Lin gazed at the girls, the flower spirits. These girls wore blank expressions, their eyes dim but filled with a kind of resentment. This resentment was deeply suppressed within their eyes, unable to escape even a little. Over the years, it had slowly grown more intense. At this moment, the girls, surrounding the silver corpse, their eerie eyes flickering, unleashed an overwhelming burst of resentment, a surge so fierce that it was shocking. The resentment swirled, forming a force that shot toward the silver corpse. To Wang Lin's eyes, the spirits of the girls seemed to wrap around the silver corpse, pulling at it, as if trying to assimilate it. But the silver corpse was, after all, a corpse. Suddenly, its eyes flashed, and it opened its mouth, releasing a cloud of white mist. The flower spirits that came into contact with the mist trembled and vanished into it. As the mist spread, it gradually covered the entire immortal abode. The sea of flowers on the ground began to wilt, as the flower spirits dissolved away. At that moment, a sharp, piercing howl echoed from deep within the grand hall. The ground trembled, and the 10 immortal soldiers outside the hall sprang into action. They transformed into 10 rays of golden light and shot into the sky, clearly intending to stop the silver corpse from absorbing the spirits. Without Wang Lin's command, Floating Wind Master's eyes flashed coldly. He stepped forward, his mountain-like body charging forward. His large hand made a mark in the air, and with a resounding crash, 3 mystic gold immortal soldiers were split apart, falling prey to Floating Wind Master's strength. The 3 masters of Dust Path moved as well, each tackling one of the immortal soldiers. Meanwhile, the 2 let out a cold laugh. With a swift motion, his already emaciated body grew even thinner. The remaining flesh and blood gathered around his head, causing his skull to enlarge by nearly double. Veins bulged across his face, twisting and crossing, and a blood-red tendon shot out from his brow, directly wrapping around one of the mystic gold immortal soldiers, pulling it toward him. The cave mansion was suddenly thrown into chaos. Within the white mist in the sky, silver corpses continuously absorbed energy, while on the ground, Floating Wind Master and others clashed with the immortal soldiers. The immortal soldiers, seemingly impervious to pain, had bodies as hard as steel. With a simple wave of their hands, golden light flashed, carrying with it the power of divine techniques. Each immortal soldier possessed cultivation strength no weaker than the peak yang fulfillment, and combined with their terrifying physical strength, they were more than capable of battling those in the glimpse of Nirvana stage. As 3 more immortal soldiers charged toward the white mist, Yakinzi gave a cold snort. His figure flickered, and he directly blocked one of the immortal soldiers. With a flick of his sleeve, the immortal soldier was immediately forced back. As Yakinzi continued to swing his sleeves, he fought fiercely against two more immortal soldiers. Both Longzi and Xingzi had similar plans in mind.